Hello and welcome to Todd Rolls Dice, where today we have another entry in the Grotmas calendar that brings something hopefully fun. We've got another Warhammer 40,000 new detachment that we're going to run through on this one, so how about we just jump in? To Grotmas calendar day 7, embrace the tragic madness of the Blood Angels with a new detachment. So we've had a couple of these so far, and we've done videos on both of them. We had the Imperial Guard with their grizzled company, veteran company, I can't remember what it was called, but it was really fun. And then yesterday, well, 2 days ago at time of recording, but we're catching up with this one, we had what sounded like an incredibly fun Chaos Space Marines, very terrifying shock and awe, almost Night Lords-y detachment that seemed to play into potential new releases. Well, I say potential. Kill Team releases. Let me put it that way. That's how it felt to me. Let's see what they've done for the Blood Angels. This is the Rage-cursed Onslaught. As this detachment is themed around the Red Thirst and Black Rage, we think it'll particularly appeal to players who have a sizable contingent of Death Company units. Adeptus Astartes units can reroll 1s to wound in combat, that's always nice. Then if your unit charges, you get +1 attack, +2 instead if your unit is battle shocked. Okay, so these are going to play very well against the new Chaos detachment. There's a good mix of enhancements. You can let one of your units scout 6 inches, and it has a reroll battle shock aura of 6 inches. That sounds like 2 useful abilities, which you could use to try and fail for detachment benefits. Yeah, it feels like you don't really want to succeed those rolls. There's a 6-inch aura of +1 strength to Death Company units, a once per game fights first, and finally sustained hits 2 versus character, monster, vehicle unit. They sound like pretty good enhancements. A number of stratagems have a unique mechanic that they give the player the choice for a more powerful buff, but at the cost of battle shocking your unit. Oh, risk reward. I like that kind of thing in games. I'm interested how they work around that then. There is an advance and shoot or charge, but battle shock yourself and it can be shoot and charge. Okay, there's a +1 strength or +1 AP to melee attacks, but battle shock yourself and it's +1 strength, +1 AP. On top of these, you can reduce the AP of incoming enemy attacks, you can secure an objective when the enemy kills one of your units in range of that objective, you can give Death Company a 5-up feel no pain, and finally, you can have a Death Company unit fight on death. Okay, so we do have a new detachment coming later today, and that will bring us up to date with day 8. Looking forward to it. I've really been enjoying these, and this sounds like a very subtle, different way of playing again. So, the last 2 detachments, the Guard and the Chaos Space Marines, both had enhancements that let characters join units they didn't usually join for benefits. Whereas this gives you the option to battle shock yourself for bonuses, which feels very much like the Red Thirst. Now, I'm not a fan of the Blood Angels, I don't know much about them, they're probably the legion that I know least about in all honesty. I don't really know why, I've just not come across them that much. But I know a little bit about the Death Company, but I didn't know if they had many specific units. I'm guessing that in their Codex supplement you can give units the Death Company keyword, which will obviously play into this quite nicely, and the theme and the narrative of a Blood Angels army. But this sounds pretty good. How about we take a look at the rules? So you will find this in the Blood Angels faction pack. This is the second detachment that they have, and we have the Rage-cursed Onslaught. Detachment rule, Maddened Ferocity. Each time an Adeptus Astartes model from your army makes a melee attack, reroll a wound roll of 1. It's solid, and it's definitely going to come in handy. Each time an Adeptus Astartes unit from your army is selected to fight, if that unit made a charge move this turn until the end of the phase, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of the melee weapons equipped by models in that unit. If your unit is battle shocked, add 2 to the attacks characteristic of melee weapons equipped by models in that unit instead. Restrictions, your army can include Blood Angels units, but it cannot include Adeptus Astartes units drawn from any other chapter. That's the standard Space Marine restriction for the big main chapters. So reroll wound rolls of 1 as standard for melee attacks is pretty nice. And then if you're battle shocked, +2 to your attacks characteristic, you're probably going to be getting that +2 quite a lot and playing into battle shocked. Enhancements for this one, Carmine Reliquary, Chaplain model only. Models in the bearer's unit have the Scout 6-inch ability, which is nice. Each time you take a battle shock test for an Adeptus Astartes unit within 6 inches of the bearer, you can re-roll the result. So if you need to pass, you can re-roll if you fail, or if you want to fail, you can try again and fail. That gives you quite a nice bit of flexibility with your battle shock test. It's not guaranteeing a fail or a pass, but that either way, whatever you need to do, that could really help. I think that's quite nice. Again, this all depends on points, and I don't think we have points for these enhancements yet, but on face value, for what the army ability is, and that detachment rule, I think that's quite nice. And Scout 6 inches as an extra is pretty good, because you do want to be as far up the board as possible so you can get into melee range and start swinging. Next one, Master of the Red Thirst, Adeptus Astartes model only. Once per battle, at the start of the fight phase, the bearer can use this enhancement. If it does until the end of the phase, models in the bearer's unit have the Fights First ability. I love Fights First. I think it's a really strong ability, and being able to do that, alright, it's once per battle, is pretty nice, especially if you have something that you want dead, you're hitting it with a big unit, you need to go first to get points or kills or whatever. But once per battle abilities, I don't love. It's a one and done, it works great when you use it strategically. Again, depends on how expensive that is. But it's nice to have. It's a nice thing to have in your back pocket if it's cheap. If not, you can get Fights First from a Judicia, and that's probably what Blood Angels players will run if they're melee focused units. Maybe. Next one, Sanguinary Tear Aura. Adeptus Astartes model only. While a friendly Death Company unit is within 6 inches of the bearer, add 1 to the strength characteristic of weapons equipped by models in that unit. 6-inch aura of +1 strength for Death Company units. That sounds very nice. And then a final one, Angel's Fang, Adeptus Astartes model only. Each time the bearer makes a melee attack that targets a character, monster, or vehicle unit, that attack has the Sustained Hits 2 ability. It's nice, Sustained Hits 2 is always going to be a nice extra, but it's not guaranteed. You've got to be hitting those 6s, which, if you roll like me, doesn't happen often. And you are obviously focusing on characters, monsters, or vehicles. So it's nice that you have that bit in your back pocket. Units that you'd probably put that on melee focused, they're probably going to chew through inventory anyway. So it gives you a little bit of punch against characters, monsters, and vehicles. I think that's the weakest one of the 4. Let me know what you think in the comments below, especially Blood Angels players. What do we think of these? I think the enhancements sound pretty good. I think that detachment rule is great. The one that stands out to me the most is the Carmine Reliquary. I think that reroll Battle Shock, and I'm not a big fan of Battle Shock, but for this detachment it works. I think being able to reroll and potentially fail is really nice. It's 6-inch aura, it's pretty good. It's nice to have auras back a little bit as well. Sanguinary Tear, not bad at all, +1 strength. Within 6 inches for Death Company units. Master of the Red Thirst is very usable, but it's that once per battle thing. I mean, they're all usable, aren't they? They all sound pretty good. Move on to our stratagems now. So again, these stratagems have lost their titles. There's no epic deeds. There's no strategic ploys, or whatever it was called. They are all just stratagems. I know that they have their individual pictures, but don't know what's going on there. I hope that they are just getting rid of the stupid names and a stratagem is a stratagem, and we stick with this. You have a limited number of stratagems per detachment. I really like these detachments for 10th, but we'll see. So one of these is Armor of Contempt for 1 CP. We all know what Armor of Contempt is, so we'll leave that there. First one, a Grim Warning for 1 CP. When any phase, target 1 Blood Angels unit from your army that was just destroyed while it is within range of 1 or more objective markers you controlled at the end of the previous phase. You can use this stratagem on that unit even though it was just destroyed. Effect: select one of those objective markers. That objective marker remains under your control until your opponent's level of control over that objective marker is greater than yours at the end of a phase. Is it sticky on death? Is that what we're going with? It's nice, it's usable, capture and hold on death, isn't it? Yeah, I quite like that. Next one, Insensate Rampage for 1 CP. When your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. Target 1 Death Company unit from your army that was selected as the target of 1 or more of the attacking unit's attacks. Effect: until the end of the phase, models in your unit have the 5 up feel no pain ability. it's just good, isn't it? It's a good little bit of survivability, 33% chance for it to go off, but if you can save a wound or a couple of wounds, yeah, that's pretty good. Restricted to Death Company, but I think that works with this detachment and the narrative vibe of this detachment. And Blood Angels players, you probably run a lot of Death Company, right? I think that's quite solid, certainly for 1 CP. Limb from Limb for 1 CP. When fight phase, target 1 Adeptus Astartes unit from your army that made a charge move this turn. Effect: select either the strength or armor penetration characteristic of melee weapons equipped by models in your unit. Until the end of the phase, add 1 to the selected characteristic. You can instead choose for your unit to give in to the Red Thirst. If it does, it becomes battle shocked, but the effects of this stratagem still apply to it. And until the end of the phase, add 1 to the strength and armor penetration characteristics of melee weapons equipped by models in your unit. So, you charge, you pop that, you go battle shocked, so you get +1 strength, +1 AP. This still works because it specifies that this stratagem still applies, and you also get +2 to your attack's characteristic because you've charged. And you're getting reroll wounds of 1 as well. That's really nice, and I think most of the time you would be taking that battle shock because it helps you out in melee, and it's specifically a melee thing. But you wouldn't be able to pop another... Mind you, could you pop a Grim Warning if you go in, you fight, you get your bonuses, you do a bit of damage, but your unit is destroyed? Because your unit is destroyed, could you use a Grim Warning even if they were battle shocked? Because a destroyed unit, in my mind, can't be battle shocked, right? I don't know. I have never thought of that way of doing things. That's really nice though. Obviously you're playing with fire a little bit with battle shocked, and it's going to potentially limit you, but you do get some good buffs for being battle shocked. Next one, Deathless Duty. This is the only 2 CP stratagem we have here. When fight phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its target. Target 1 Death Company unit from your army that was selected as the target of 1 or more of the attacking unit's attacks. Effect: until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit is destroyed, if that model has not fought this phase, do not remove it from play. The destroyed model can fight after the attacking unit has finished making its attacks and is then removed from play. So it's a 2 CP fight on death for Death Company. I think that is fitting. I think 2 CP is probably fair, and it's a very useful stratagem. Yeah, I quite like that. A final one, Red Wrath for 1 CP. When your movement phase just after an Adeptus Astartes unit from your army advances, target that Adeptus Astartes unit. Effect: until the end of the turn, your unit is eligible to either shoot or declare a charge in a turn in which it advanced. You can instead choose for your unit to give in to the Red Thirst. If it does, it becomes battle shocked, but the effects of this stratagem still apply to it. And until the end of the turn, your unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which it advanced. Right, here's a question. Firstly, that stratagem, not as useful as Limb from Limb, but still very useful. Could you do Red Wrath, shoot, then charge? Because you've already given in to the Red Thirst and you're battle shocked, can you still do Limb from Limb in the fight phase after you've made a successful charge? Because, and I only ask that because it specifically says on both of those stratagem, the effects of this stratagem still apply to it, and it doesn't say anywhere about it already being battle shocked. Now, when you're battle shocked, you can't use stratagems on your unit, right? But this stratagem states that the effects of this stratagem still apply. I think I'm clutching at straws there. I actually do think that that's a step too far, and you probably rules as written shouldn't, because they become battle shocked after the first one, after Red Wrath, and to use Limb from Limb on them, they can't become battle shocked because they're already battle shocked, and you can't use a stratagem on them. I feel like that might get cleared up at some point. There isn't no. Honestly, good stratagems. Armor of Contempt is, yeah, it's a useful stratagem. Sadly, it is a really useful stratagem, and it's everywhere for Adeptus Astartes. It's kind of boring now. I'm sick of seeing it, but I'm not denying that it's useful. The Grim Warning, situational, but very nice. Limb from Limb is just a standout, isn't it? I quite like Incessant Rampage. Red Wrath is good. I don't think it's as good as Limb from Limb. I think Limb from Limb is probably my favourite stratagem here. Deathless Duty is very good, but it's also 2 CP. It's a little bit more expensive. Depends how you play, and obviously how many Death Company units you have. I think that this is another strong detachment, certainly from a narrative point of view, which is where I come from. Stratagems are solid. The enhancements, depending on their points, and this is a caveat with all of these detachments because we don't have those points yet, but depending on points costs, they could be good. And they're fairly easy to put on people. You're going to run a couple of chaplains in your Blood Angels probably, and all the others can go on any Adeptus Astartes model. Angel's Fang I think is the weakest and the most situational, but the other three are pretty solid. The detachment rule is very good, but you are playing into Battle Shocked. You are limiting yourself in a way, but it is that risk and reward that I think that some of these detachments could play with more. I think this is another solid Grotmas 2025 detachment, but I don't know specific Blood Angels units. I don't have access to their codex. So Blood Angels players, what do you guys think? In just general, I'd love to know your thoughts on this detachment anyway, and that idea of playing with a bit more risk and reward and not necessarily having buffs all the time. We saw this with Space Wolves, with some of their detachments, and how only certain characters and certain keywords got the detachment rule benefit, which on face value I didn't really like, but I've gotten more used to it because it allows for these cool narrative moments with your heroes and characters. This allows for cool narrative moments where your army or elements of your army gives in to the red thirst. I think that's something cool to play around with. Love to know what you guys think in the comments below. We will be back later today with the next one, which will bring us up to date for these, and then we should be back on track for the Grotmas stuff. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, stick around, because as I say, we'll be doing more of these as and when they pop up. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.